Now we're going to cut off. Let's cut off the button. So we come over here. Boy, you can see all this crud. Certainly a lot of material got cut off this button, didn't it? Mm-hmm. There's this and this and this and so forth. Garage is about to be painted, so I kind of thought, you know, maybe it might be wiser to do this cut prior to the painting, so it's the floor doesn't have, you know, it can be kept in a little better position. Now, the issue is that this cutter, while it's a great cutter for shaping a button, is not very efficient for cutting one off. And for that, not like this. Got to do that same thing where these have to kind of line up. So I kind of do that like this. Say maybe up to about like that. That's about right. See, the cutter has to be lined up pretty much dead center to the hole for this thing to cut properly. So what I do is I back it up, come around here to the back end, and I'll come in with a nice cutoff right at that angle there. There we go. Now, the advantage of doing this properly, which is to leave a little conical shape, is it'll make it a whole lot easier when you go to, just like that, and it pops right off. And there's the button. It has a little nub that has to be cleaned off. Other than that, it's a beautiful button. Kind of an unusual button. Very nice. I like it. They're aluminum, so, you know, it's not something like it's steel, you know, and would be extremely... I'm just going to kind of clean up and talk a little bit about the process. I think, you know, the nice part is that it does fit beautifully on the slide, like real tight, you know, and I like that. It's a fun shape. So I'm very happy, you know, and I like the satin finish. If I go to 1000 grit sandpaper, it tends to give me a smoother look, but I kind of like the rougher finish. I realize these are small points, and a lot of people might say, I don't really care about any of this as far as whether it's one thing, whether it's another thing, I just don't care. Okay, get that. But being the workman does the work. I do. And it means something to me to have the work exactly. And of course, if this were for a client, I would go through the exact same process of being careful. It's not like there's, you know, two different standards. When you're a custom craftsman, you know, people pay you for the custom craftsman, and it better be there. You know, I mean, you don't want to pretend you're a custom craftsman and then produce crud. That wouldn't be fun for anybody. And all this care and time does mean the player I mean, for right now, it's me, but I don't really keep any of these harps very long. They tend to be given away or sold or something, so it won't be mine. Long. Come over and wipe this down. Pressure off the leather. Come in here, come in here. Now this can go there. And bring this out. It doesn't need more oil because boy, it got oil. Everything's wet. Like this, I just want to kind of clean up as much of the crud here as I can. And I'll bring in a little trash can. Pick up. It's not very quick work. You know, the guy that taught me to use the, well, he gave me one lesson, it was 20 minutes long. His machine was filthy. I mean, it hadn't been cleaned in 2 years. It had chips everywhere. It was in a filthy garage. He tried to run a torpedo heater in the winter with the doors all closed. Oh, what a boob. You know, those things, they say right on them, don't run them without adequate ventilation, they'll kill you. That's what he was doing. Oh well, he thought it was just fine. Former Navy boy. A lot of times those guys, they know what they're talking about, kind of. But safety, they're not always as picky as I am. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't take very many mistakes to get yourself into real trouble on a lathe. Because these things, you get anything caught in that mechanism, it will break it into pieces, including your hands, throw shit in your eyes. That's why you want to wear eye protection. Everything you do, very, very careful with these machines. Because they're great when they're used properly, and they work, you know, they do a wonderful job, but they can hurt you if you're not careful. So that's why I always am, you know, cleanliness, a lot of it too, it's like your attitude. You know, you keep it perfectly clean, and then you have an attitude that everything has to be right, you know, and so maybe the cleanliness doesn't always totally translate into a better cut, but the attitude of a machine that's properly cared for. I mean, gee, this thing's almost 100 years old. It's like 80-some years old, and it looks like new and runs like new. And the reason is it's been cared for. It didn't get abused. So you get that longevity. And then always you should have a little cloth that you put up on your machine. I have a lot more cloths, but I'm ready to, this garage is emptied out for a painting, so this is just a little mini cover, but I would normally have a lot larger cover on this. And that kind of completes the cutting of the button.